When I was in the Senate, I was supporting an effort to cut state government by cut spending by 3% across the board, because he said, oh, well, we can't cut here and we can't cut there, and we got federal mandates, and you know, we can't do that. Of course, it was voted down. Democrats controlled everything. I was at a forum last night over in East County, concerned citizens. My opponent was there. And he talked about how he's been in the Senate for 10 years now, been in the legislature for 14. And he talked about how the only 2 times in I guess, the history of the state that the state budget has been cut is while he's been in the Senate. In 2003 and 2011, and he's correct. He actually is correct. But here's the interesting thing, and I believe me, I clarified that because I spoke after him, is that in 2003 we were coming off of 9/11. It was the budget that was passed coming off of 9/11. And the economy was in a downturn of the economy. They spent every dime that came in 2003. They didn't cut the budget. They just didn't have the money to spend. Same thing happened in 2011. They spent every penny. There was no cutting of the budget. The budget cut itself. Now you want to talk about leading from behind. That's leading from behind. But that's what we're faced with here. Is that despite that, and I was saying in 2008 that we were $10 billion overspent just in the previous 10 years over the rate of inflation plus population. $10 billion. And then this last budget we were $15 billion. And they referred to it as a shortfall. What does that tell you? It tells you that if they'd have had that $15 billion, they'd have spent it. So don't let anybody tell you that they cut the budget, because they did not cut the budget. They spent every penny they had. The state constitution requires them to balance the budget. They cannot borrow money, so they had to balance it with what they had. But it's kind of interesting that suddenly all of that, oh, we can't do it, goes out the window those 2 years. But they sure spent it back up in those other years. And we're going to see the same thing happen this next session if we don't make some serious changes. If we don't have somebody standing up and telling the truth about these things. They'll also tell you that they did it without raising taxes. How many people are in business here for themselves? Are there any self-employed people? Have y'all seen your licenses and your fees and what has happened to them? They've gone through the roof. How many of you have, I don't know how many of you have kids or grandkids in college, but look at what has happened to tuition rates. And look at your property taxes. Now, a few years ago, they'll brag about how they passed the largest tax cut in history. Talking about property tax because they lowered the rate. They lowered and put a cap on the rate. But what they don't tell you is they turned right around and put a $6 billion tax on businesses, and it was an income tax. As a matter of fact, they traded one bad evil tax for another bad evil tax. Because any tax on capital or income is inherently bad because it violates the free market and it hinders private property ownership. But they traded it off. And then they didn't do anything about appraisals. Your appraisal on your home can go up by 10% a year, regardless of what the economy is doing. And if it's non-homestead, it can go up whatever they desire to fit their budget. So they don't have to raise the rate, and they'll just walk it back up. So your net tax has gone up dramatically in that time period.